Hey Anonymai, I wanted to do a little informational video. It was actually by request, and so I'll try not to take this too long, but I had an inquiry about how to spot an original roll. And I'll admit right up front, this is more of an art than a science. There are very specific things you can learn, and I'm not an expert. I actually learned a lot of this from somebody who I would consider an expert. And so I may actually gloss over a few details that I'm either missing or I don't know. I do have limits to my knowledge, but I wanted to share with you what I've learned in the time that I've been hunting these BU penny rolls, and a few things that you can learn on how to spot what's real. As far as original goes, coins are real. There can be good coins in tubes. I have had very good tubes full of coins that have great varieties and great condition coins. So I'm not saying that tubed coins are bad. They're not. In fact, a lot of beautiful coins are in tubes. But we're here to talk about paper rolls. So I have a bunch of rolls laid out in front of you. And there are two primary, there are really three primary kinds of wrappers that you're going to see when you're looking around. I'll start with this one. This is a little more obvious. This here is an aftermarket roll. As you can see, there's aluminum foil in there. These were popular a few decades ago. The idea was that the aluminum foil would prevent seepage of air and moisture into the roll. These are kind of a mixed bag, but just so you know, this is not an original bank wrapped roll. This is aftermarket. So somebody would have taken rolls, or they would have taken coins from rolls from the bank or bags and put them into these for long-term storage. So if you're seeing the foil wrap, that is not an original bank wrapped roll. Sometimes the coins in here are great, and sometimes they're corroded and spotty. It's a really mixed bag. Now let's get into the bank wrapped rolls. I have a few different styles here, two primary styles, but then we'll get into some specifics. I don't know what this wrapper is called, but the most older original bank wrapped wrappers you're finding are going to have this diagonal cut across right here. In my mind, I call it a standard wrapper, and this one in particular is 1965. So this style was the primary wrapping type from the 30s into really the 60s. This is primary. You will mostly see these. As you can see, there's a tight crimp on this end. It's undisturbed. And there's a tight crimp on this end. Undisturbed. I'll show you one here that is disturbed. If one has been kind of opened and peeked in, it's going to look like this. It's hard to get those crimps back in. There are crimping devices that can be bought, but most people don't take the time to do them, but some do. We'll talk a little bit more about fake rolls here in a second. So most rolls that you're going to find from about the 30s until the 60s are going to have this diagonal cut. A lot of them will have a bank name on them. This one does not. It's generically labeled. But there is another type of roll. It is called a Batdorf wrapped roll, Batdorf, and it's named after the guy who owns the patent. And you can see right here, it even says Batdorf patent, March 2nd, 1915. The funny part is that this was patented in 1915, but didn't see heavy usage for another 50 years, really. You can find rolls from the 30s, 40s, 50s, mostly 40s, 50s forward that are Batdorf wrapped, but they are extremely uncommon. What's going on here, though, is that this V shape is the indication that you're dealing with a Batdorf wrapped roll, but let's listen to the difference. This 1965, you hear those coins rattling around? They're not super duper duper tight. They're good. They're secure, but they're not super tight. This is tight. There's no movement whatsoever. So these are popular roll types because they're held so tightly that the coins are basically, they're not suctioned together, but they're just so tightly put together that there's not a lot of airflow or moisture flow that get in from the faces and the coins. They're so tightly together that they're preserved better. So these are very popular, and if you notice, if you're bidding on them on the internet, eBay, or any kind of social media type of auction, these are going to carry a premium. So be prepared for that. It is assumed that they are higher quality coins, but they're not always higher quality coins. But on average, you're going to have more success with that. Now, having said that, this is an earlier Batdorf roll for memorials, 1962. I would say, in my experience, there is no rule. This is not a rule, but starting in the 40s, they were used. So they were around for a long, long time. When they went into heavy usage, Batdorf style wrappers, they were done around 1970. That's when they started to get heavy, heavy usage. This is a 1981 as an example. And there you go. First Security Bank Americard, 1981. Batdorf wrapped roll. Little tear here, but they're tight. Same thing over here. Got an 81D. Generically labeled. And as you can see, they switched to white. And just so you don't write off these types entirely, this is a Wells Fargo roll, and they used this brown paper in the 90s. So what I'm about to say has some qualifiers, but this does say Wells Fargo, and it was Wells Fargo when they were doing their armored car company. Now, I want to get into fakes and types of paper here. This is like a type of craft paper that was used from really the 30s until the 70s. It's about the 70s when you start to see coins switch over to this white Batdorf wrap paper. Yes, there's a brown one here, but the 70s is when you really start to see these come out in great number. If you see things from the 60s or back in this type of wrapper, that's an indication that you're not dealing with an original bank wrap roll. However, because this it just has a look of being older, even though it's not. This is 1994. A lot of scammers on eBay will use this type of roll to get you to overpay for coins. Now, what you'll see is a roll that looks like this, and it'll have an Indian head cent or a barber dime or a bright red Wheatie showing on the end. And it's sold as like a shotgun roll, or like, look at this is going to be loaded with amazing coins, and it's full of junk. They put something really cool in the end. They fill it up with 1940s and 50s brown cents, and then they buy one of those crimping devices that I told you about and crimp this end by hand. This style here with the stripes was not popular until the 70s. So if you see something with these red ends, but this kind of paper, what they're mimicking is this right here, or this. So if you see something like this in particular is going to be a roll that someone put together. You'll see these all over eBay. Avoid them. But they're mimicking something that didn't even exist in wide usage until the 70s. If you're looking for something in the 60s or older, it's going to look like this. It's going to be this craft paper, solid colors. It'll either say the bank name or Federal Reserve, or heck, I had one the other day that said like the Stockman something tradesman group. Okay, sorry, had to do a quick interruption, but like I was saying, this is the kind of roll you will see on eBay, and buyer beware. This is not going to be an original bank roll. It imitates some of the things of the older rolls here, but it is not a real roll. Original roll. There are really coins in it, but here's an example of what I believe to be an aftermarket home job. This is a very old wrapped roll. This is actually a really a roll of 68 uncirculated cents. However, I believe it may have come out of a bag, or perhaps it was searched and re-rolled. But this end is nice and neat. It was machine crimped. Kind of like this one. And as you can see, it's got the diagonal cut across here. It's not Batdorf. But on the other end, you can see that this crimp is just a lot more sloppy. This is not something that a machine did. Perhaps it was a hand-done job with one of those little crimping tools that you can get on Amazon. But it's just not right. And so this screams, to me, this is not an original roll. So look for those kind of things like that to see either opening and tampering, or home crimp with a nice machine crimp on the other end. This paper is also a lot more bright red. You see that? These old rolls should be a little more faded than that if they truly are what they are. This is a 64, and look at the color of the paper. It's faded. This one's just a little bit too bright to be a believable 1968. Well, this wasn't an exhaustive study of rolls, but I hope those pointers can help you navigate the market a little bit. Give me a like button, and give me a like, hit that thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if you have any more questions, anything I haven't covered, and we'll have more discussions, more videos, whatever you guys like. So good luck out there. Happy hunting. Find something awesome.